Welcome to the Meditation Podcast. You can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. You'll find everything about me. You can scan the QR code and you'll see my 6 podcasts, or go to royconn.com. If you're interested in starting a podcast, you're an existing podcaster and you want to improve your ratings, or you want to do a podcast tour, I help with that. If you're looking for a virtual assistant, go to va.world. My guest is an international speaker and mind-body therapist with expertise in mental and behavioral health, chronic pain, and emotional stress, holding a doctorate in physiotherapy and specialized training in osteopathy, acupuncture, and hypnotherapy. He blends breathwork, mindset coaching, and brief therapy techniques to promote personal growth, weight loss, and leadership development. As a part-time lecturer and certified hypnotherapy instructor, he also leads the Bridge Institute, an organization dedicated to educational programs and events that explore mental health, team dynamics, and the mind-body connection. From Lebanon, currently living in Canada, please welcome Jad Wehbe. Did I pronounce it right?
The long introduction.
I think it's very relevant because what I've learned as well is sometimes people, they're listening for the first few minutes and it's very interesting what you're doing. So then they'll go, oh, that can affect me. So I don't always do that, but I think it was very relevant to do it for yourself.
But me passively listening felt too long, but thank you.
No problem. So I suppose, like, you're obviously doing a lot, but I always like to know the person's journey, because obviously something happened in life to kind of get you down this. There's usually a kind of a shift in life and you kind of go, I want to do this.
I used to have a hard time describing what led me to this, and in fact it's my journey as a physical therapist. And when I finished my bachelor's, it felt so disappointing that I've spent 4 years of my life studying something, and I felt that that's it. It's not enough. And then when I started, and I had like this amazing teacher who used to say, your degree is the legal permit to learn a professional. It's just the legal permit. And when I started learning and practicing, I noticed that the emotional component was so huge, and I always wanted to study more. I started with osteopathy. And then when you deeply dive in osteopathy, you understand the Chinese roots of osteopathy. And then when you dive in Chinese roots, you understand in an amazing way the connections between the emotions and the physical health. And they describe it in such a detailed way, with their own words, with their own culture that's coming 2,000-3,000 years ago. So it all started there, and discovering the connection between the mind and the body, the emotions and the physical health was so passionate. I was so passionate about it. Then I wanted to dive deeper into the emotional component. I started studying hypnotherapy, and then I started studying cognitive and behavioral therapy, brief techniques, brain rewiring techniques, breathwork therapy, meditation, mindfulness meditation. And then with my scientific backgrounds, and every time I used to study at school, every teacher and every school promotes itself in a very unique way. So everything needs to be done this way. Hypnotherapy is the solution for everything. Breathwork is the solution for everything. CBT is the best technique. Everything should be treated with CBT. Mindfulness therapy or mindfulness-based therapy is the best thing, everything. So then with my physical therapy background, we know that we cannot use one technique to heal anyone. We need to combine. Every technique is just one tool in the toolbox. So this is when I started applying the scientific principles of physical therapy into mental health and combining so many tools. So I used, CBT is amazing. So what if we use hypnotherapy at the same time, and how they would blend together? And then what if we add mindfulness to the three combined together? And then what if we add breathwork therapy? And then what if we add trauma healing? And it started creating this unique approach and starting having amazing feedbacks from people. Since I'm a teacher, then I love sharing, and that's another passion I do. And then I started teaching that, and it started as a snowball effect. And then, more and more students and more people wanted to learn the blend, let's say.
Excellent. And Like, how do you feel when you see the kind of medical system where a lot of them, they train, they're given their goodie bags at the start and they come out, and a lot of them don't even do continuous training. But even if you go to a doctor, a medical doctor, and you tell them, hey, I've cured myself through this, they say, good job. And they will not tell the next person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sad, like, cause I mean, like, like, and the thing is as well, when you're continuous learning, when you're passionate about something, it's no longer just about, I have to do this. It's like you're understanding how you can actually benefit so many people. And it's a shame that all doctors don't have that.
You know, you're tapping into another aspect or angle of the personal story. When you have a family member or a loved one who struggled personally from a mental and a physical health problem, you have maybe this extra drive of, wanting to do the extra mile and the extra step to help healing. So my mom struggled a lot with mental and physical health. And it was like an early drive for me to intuitively want to help more and more efficiently. And because her problems were really complicated and we never found one recipe solution, let's say, and we had to do this blending. Funny enough, I found myself later on, doing blending techniques and blending approaches on my own to better serve. So somehow, most of the time, there is a personal drive and a personal story with a narrative that is a big driver on one hand. And then I don't like to use a lot the word luck. Sometimes, some teachers you have along the way give you are so inspiring in their journey and what they teach you. And I try to mimic that and I try to give that to my students when I teach those techniques. And just like I told you, this guy is amazing. And I always remember the sentence, like, you never finish learning. Actually, you start learning when you graduate. So this concept stayed with me. And sometimes you have people on your path that they leave a mark in you, and then it's part of how you think and how you approach growth and learning. I don't know if I answered you.
Absolutely.
That's a satisfying answer, but
yes, absolutely. And because, like, I suppose even in the workplace or whatever, because with the stress that's caused, that people get ailments. And how I actually know that is when I was in my, I think about 24 or something like that, or maybe 22. I was running a big job for a mechanical contractor that I was doing, and I was working like 8 in the morning till kind of 12 at night. And eventually I got so-called sciatica, a trapped nerve, and I'd done everything to try to get rid of it. Acupuncture, I'd done faith healer, spiritual healer, anything you need. It just tried everything, couldn't get rid of it. Then I did an epidural, and they put it, after they give you the painful injection, they put you to sleep and they're manipulating you. And I woke up and I was getting the shooting pains down the other leg, and it was weird.
oh gosh.
And then I was advised, get the operation, your disc is protruding. And I was at my wit's end, and I went away and I done it. And in the end, I healed myself. I was ready to throw in the towel. It was like I was just like I was lying down. I couldn't sleep. I moved. It was just a horror. I read a book, Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno. And so many people that I've actually recommended. And I cured it. It was like, I had pain, but yet it was stress related because honestly, I was too young to be running a multi-million-pound job. And they just, yeah, of course, throw you in the deep end. But I see that happening with so many people. And like, it's like all these corporations, they're all guilty of that. They know what they do. But like what I actually saw, I saw somebody getting a breakdown with the company I was with. And so he had to leave and get done. And when he wanted to come back, they didn't want him in the company because he was like, and I was so disgusted with how they, because it was, we had created him getting a breakdown because of stress.
Yeah.
And so many companies do that. So it's like, can we bring this into the workplace? That's like trying to stop it before it actually escalates.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And the problem is that you need to find good convincers for corporate people to make them realize that they are, unfortunately, what I'm gonna say is really unfortunate, but that's the harsh reality, is that sometimes we need to convince them from a financial perspective, because they're the decision makers and they see finances. So sometimes when we propose corporate approach for big groups, we tell them, hey, I mean, when your people will get less sick, will be healthier, will be happier, they're gonna work better, they're gonna feel they belong, they're gonna be happier while working. Your income as a company will increase, because it's true, when people are happier and healthier, they are more natural and giving. And sometimes we have to use this language to convince them, but you need to adjust sometimes to convince the decision makers. But in some cases where the big leaders and the managers are not aware, you'd see frequent people leaving. And when they do one-to-one sessions, they started realizing that, hey, I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, this place doesn't give me the environment to be healthy on the mental health, on the mental level. So you start seeing people leaving so frequently, this big corporate, staying 1, 2, 3 years and then leaving. And that's, I don't know, that's really frustrating, because there's so much still lack of awareness on how dangerous mental health can be on the physical health and on life in general. Even with all the information, with all the podcasts, with all the reels and videos and shorts, we're still really not enough awareness. And that's sad. And that's, I think, the mission of everyone, including you, with the amazing job you're doing with your podcasts, is that we still need awareness. We still need awareness. And unfortunately, in the educational system, when I teach pain management, in the first chapter, we call it the biopsychosocial model. Every pain has to be looked at through a lens, through a filter, which is the biopsychosocial model. The biological component can cause pain. The psychological component can cause pain. The social component can cause pain. If you're lonely, if your social connections are poor and you're miserable on that front, you'll be more prone to pain. Your threshold of pain would be lower. With the same disc bulge, if that's your nerve and that's the disc bulge, with the same disc bulge, someone who's lonely would feel pain. Someone who's not lonely won't feel pain. The MRI will just show you this, situation, right? And then we know, there are studies, and I don't know if you read it in the book or if it's not part of the book. I've read so many books on pain management, I don't remember which one, and I've went through so many studies, but you know that if you have a minor low back pain and you've done an MRI, and then in the MRI you've seen you have disc bulge compressing the nerve, you know that you have 60% risk of your pain getting worse just by knowing the information. Just by knowing. Just knowing would hit on the psychological component of the biopsychosocial model, and it's going to create a nocebo effect, which was the opposite of placebo effect. Just by knowing, oh, this is bad, your pain will start increasing. Your fear of the pain will start increasing, and you're going to start feeling more pain with the same situation. So the same anatomical situation that can be seen on an X-ray or an MRI has nothing to do with pain. It's a predisposition, like a 5% predisposition. But as you've read and personally experienced it, which is amazing, that when you change the other components, the situation can stay the same. And actually, most of disc bulge will end up resolving themselves and being, shrinking with time for so many reasons. If you do the right physical therapy, the right muscle training, and then you deal with the psychological component and the social component, that's it. It's gone.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I know this happens with a lot of people. It's like the first thing people will say to you is, how's your back? And that was one thing I said, stop asking me, because you're getting a trigger straight away. And I know that's happening. A lot of people, whatever they're suffering, and it's the, oh, how are you? And it's exactly like what you've just said there, because it's a trigger and then it becomes there. And even you might get distracted, you might forget about it or whatever, and you might be on the mend, and then straight away you're going back into that situation.
Exactly. The famous saying, what you focus on grows, including pain.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to touch on all the different things, but the breathwork, because I mean, I've had a lot of different people talking about different types of breathwork. I've experienced a lot of different breathwork facilitators and just kind of, so explain the breathwork that you're doing.
Okay. So I'm it's amazing how, you have these personal experiences, and when we have this discussion, it just takes it to another level. So I'm really happy. Listen, I have, maybe it's a good quality or it's a bad thing, but I'm attached to scientific principles, even though with alternative medicine and holistic approach, I try to keep an eye on the scientific roots of things, because a lot of holistic approaches would lack scientific roots, and it can go in so many, I would say, ugly directions where people have, hopes on the right things, and they started building hopes, because when you are struggling, you just want anything that promise the healing, and you would find yourself, in dark places due to false hopes. So when I started studying breathwork therapy, I studied rebirthing. So rebirthing was really like a life-changing technique. It was so amazing. And, I used to combine it with CBT for pain management, for low back pain, for example. And instead of the approach taking 10 sessions or 12 sessions, it used to be done in 3-4 sessions sometimes. And a chronic low back pain with a so-called sciatica, as you said, would go in 3-4 sessions when we combine all the tools together with breathwork. It used to be amazing. And then it reached a place where some people started refusing breathwork, not breathwork, rebirthing. And for spiritual or religious reasons, right? So because rebirthing is based on specific spiritual belief. So if you belong to the spiritual belief, you would find yourself and you would relate from a cultural perspective and a spiritual perspective and a belief perspective, you would relate to this technique because it's based on reincarnation, and it's based on finding physical immortality, as Leonard Orr himself describes it in his recordings. I don't know if you're aware of this dimension or not, but the spiritual religious component of the rebirthing is very present. So if you believe in something else, at a certain moment, you'd feel, a spiritual belief is being imposed on you. And some people started refusing this. And then I studied holotropic breathing. And the holotropic breathing, it doesn't, include any spiritual component, but it's, with time, a lot of people started also rejecting it because it was too intense and aggressive with this rhythmic music and pushing in a very intense way, and only, building on the hyperventilation component, which, this famous psychiatrist used to use, therapy based on hallucination, and he found that hyperventilation would replace that in a healthy way. So that was the main line. Then when I started diving deeply into breath work and understanding, hey, there's much more in breath work than that. So why can't we have a technique that it's only based on science, only based on scientific principles? And again, blending all the scientific principles together in one technique that includes CBT in breathwork, that includes brain rewiring in breathwork, that includes hypnotherapy in breathwork, brainwave changes in breathwork, some Freudian approaches and trauma and wound healing in breathwork, and so on, so on, so on. So I started, blending again. My signature is blending. I start blending this and removing our spiritual component. Hyperventilation can be interesting a lot in some people. Some people would refuse it. So it's optional. It's there, but it's not a must. It's not imposed every single time. It's not rigid. It can adjust to each one, It's highly personalized with we pick and choose and which component we're going to focus on the most here for Roy, for example, for your situation. And we're going to use those principles mostly with you. Are you a spiritual person? Do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe in physical immortality? Yes. So, okay, that belongs to you. You bring your own spirituality into the game, into the session, but nothing is imposed on you. So this is how it started again, and started taking more and more impact. And what's amazing is that when I started teaching emotion liberation breathing, I had goals from India, which is the country of breathwork, right? Every breathwork started there. And I started traveling to India because even in India, weirdly enough, when you go there and you meet people, they're not all that connected to this specific form of spirituality. Not necessarily at all. Especially scientific people from the medical field or the paramedical field. It's there in their culture, but they don't really necessarily strongly believe in it, or they want it to be part of their healing journey from a physical illness. Not necessarily. So they understand breath, it's powerful, but they don't necessarily want to include spirituality, or they change their spiritual beliefs. It's their right. So I teach emotion liberation breathing in India, and we have more than now 300 emotion liberation breathing practitioners in India, and they promote breathwork without spiritual component. So this is how it started. But it's not you're forbidden to bring your spirituality in. Feel free, whatever you believe in. You're gonna have these zones and these parts of the brain that's gonna be stimulated, and sometimes you would have spiritual experiences, but they're personal, they're individual, with the respect of the practitioner or the facilitator, not to bring any of his own beliefs into yours. So, and it's not in a nutshell anymore, but briefly, this is the story of the breathwork tools that I used and I've put in place. And I cannot tell you the amount of people who when they start, seeing this, as if finally there is a breathwork tool that it's not a singular way to approach things. It's adjustable. It's not a stereotype. It is the same for everyone, right? You put a headset on and you follow the script and you're just like anyone else. No, it's not, stereotyped. It's not a protocol. It's not spiritual. It's 9 schools blended together to be personalized for your personal needs. And that's what's happening on the breathwork tools. I don't know, what's your experience? I really want to know more about your experience and how what do you feel when I tell you that? What do you feel? What do you think?
No, I think it's great. It's fantastic because usually what happens is it's kind of everyone has their own way, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's beautiful, like, because it's like you don't want people to walk away because of their belief system, whether it's religion, whatever it is, they don't get it, and the different types of doing it. But what I'd like to because I've done one where we were in the water and I was like floating, and I felt like I was being born in that one. That was just incredible.
That's rebirthing. That's rebirth.
It was incredible. Like, I mean, I didn't even know what I was to expect. And when I was telling them they were going to, another one, I've done a few where, like, I forget the type, the one that they were doing it, but like some people were releasing trauma then, and so you experience seeing somebody, and then they were triggered, they remembered something that happened, abuse or something like that. So that then made me scared sometimes when I was seeing people doing it online and not really knowing what they were doing, because I said if somebody was doing deep breathing and they were on their own, that's a recipe for disaster. But I've also seen, and like sometimes people, I think because I've seen incredible visualizations, like it's a beautiful feeling, but then I think there's people, they get addicted to it, as in like they crave that feeling. Like some people, they want the marijuana all the time, or some people they want LSD, whatever there is, and they crave that. And I think they can do damage by doing too much of that as well. And like I subscribe to different courses, I've done different things, but what I find is I'm just kind of more present and I just breathe. So I don't need to do the, I did Wim Hof. I went to ice bath it was in Jamaica, so there was hot water, but I've actually done ice lakes in Poland, but just through breath, my own just kind of being conscious of it, went into, for 10, 15 minutes inside in the ice lakes. And it's like, you get totally rejuvenated from that. But I think it's kind of just tapping into yourself, because you realize what works for you. And it's nice to kind of be guided and told the different ways to do it, instead of this is the way to do it. You must go heavy in, because a lot of people don't like that either. It's not like, I did enjoy it. I did have it, but it's not that I crave it. So you've probably seen people with that as well.
Yeah, and you tapped into something so important because you've experienced this firsthand. It's that breathwork therapy, even though it's this amazing tool, but it's not a tool that can stand on its own to really do radical changes in someone's life. If you just go in, breathe, whatever type of breathing, whatever approach, it's not enough. And that's why, in the Bridge Institute, the entry level is to know just how to do the breathing, the emotion liberation breathing. But if you want to go one step further to become really serious in the field and have confidence and being effective, you need to study other stuff not related to breath. You need to study CBT, you need to study hypnotherapy, and the blending of all these techniques you need to know how to deal with anxiety, how to deal with guilt, how to deal with depressions. You need to understand the CBT models of so many problems. You need to know how to heal trauma, because in the breath, you're going to have trauma, as you said, right? And if you don't master tools to how to address a trauma, how to desensitize a trauma, you're in deep problem, and your patient or your client is in deeper problem now, and especially if it's online. So you need to learn. If it's online, there's a lot of preparation that needs to be done. So there's a lot of scanning that needs to be done. You need to scan for trauma, scan for anxiety, scan for depression, scan for X, Y, Z, and then see, okay, is this person ready to have breathwork online or not? And sometimes they're not ready. Most 50% of the time they're not ready. They need other tools. They need tools with CBT and healing and hypnotherapy and a lot of soft versions of breathing that has nothing to do with breath work in the intense way, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of specific type of breath, like cardiac coherence breathing or softer tools of breath. And they start slow and gradual, building the skills with other tools. And now they're ready, if it's online, especially. So there's this whole process of readiness, of scanning, of integrating other tools into breathwork that you rarely see. And now it's a bit better. And I'm seeing more awareness. And I don't know what you're seeing from your angle, but it's a bit getting better. There's still a long way to educate schools that are teaching those techniques, that it's serious, and you need to give your students a lot of tools, because it can go bad.
And because someone's coming in, sometimes you can have the conversation and they might say it's a divorce, they might say it's a financial issue, they're going through losses and stuff like that, and there's other times they don't really know what's going on. But sometimes people don't even ask. And I think, yeah, there's times they're going to maybe alternative healing. Like, I know that doctors, just from my experience and from people I know, they just kind of put the cream on the hand. They don't, why is the rash happening? But unless you're having the conversation to find out exactly where this came from, it's just gonna keep repeating itself.
Yeah. And this conversation is because so many sections of one's life can be the root or the roots of the problem, that you need scanning tools, right? You need to know from where do you start, how so, like, for example, the wheel of life, right? Looking at different sections, but what do you ask on that front? You need to have scanning tools, validated scanning tools that give you some scores. How is your social life happening? And with a score, with something scientifically validated as a, an effective measuring tool to know what's happening on your social life front, what's happening on your anxiety front, what's happening on your depression front, and where is it coming from? Is it coming from, the past? Is it coming from the now? Is it coming from your love life, family life, social life, career, profession, etc.? So you need tools. And practitioners, when you teach, also they need tools. And most of breathworks therapy that I've seen, they don't, you know, give those tools or teach those tools. And this is so important. And in the pain management, it's even more delicate because someone is suffering with pain and, maybe they are about to do a surgery and I want to avoid the surgery. So you have to be on top of the knowledge, and as efficiently as possible. So you need all these tools to have a super accurate scanning of, okay, this is the problem of your pain. This is the percentage that's coming from the biology. This is the percentage coming from the psychological component. And this is the percentage coming from the social component. And these are those problematic components. And this is what we need to address in a very specific way. That's that's the problem. That's the problem. That's what's lacking in the system.
This is probably a hard one to answer, but a lot of times, if a friend, loved one, or somebody, maybe their parent or something, they get an illness, usually cancer, something like that, and they're going down the chemo route. And even if you know of alternatives that 100% work, that is, and I know there's sometimes there's some places that it depends on the level, and their mindset is just not open to anything like that. It's very difficult to watch because you kind of know where it's going. But even sometimes it happens in the household with, a spouse and something like that. It's different when you're kind of given a recommendation. I never push what I know, but without even pushing her, is there any way that people can kind of navigate that a bit better to just get them to even try it before they go down? Like I know people, they cancel and they go and get the operation and they cut off parts of their body. And I'm like, did they ask you where you were? They don't want to know nothing. Like they're just taking pieces out of you. And it's like, sometimes then you get half, and next time it happens, then you're gone. So I know it's a very hard question, but
yes,
is there ways to navigate it to try to maybe get a better conversion rate for?
Yeah, listen. Now, the answer isn't with who can do that, but why this happens. Let's start with the explanation. Okay. So what happens is that it's a form of depression, right? It's the person surrendering and not having the drive to live anymore deep down in the subconscious mind. They're letting go. So we need to look at it from that angle. Why this person with this situation, why some people with cancer would not go into this emotional response and feeling depressed and hopeless, and why some would. So it's I'm simplifying it, but not too much. Just like the disc bulge, why some people would feel so much pain with the same disc bulge, and other won't feel that much pain. Why some people would feel, hopeless and they're stuck, and other will be optimistic. So there are the cognitive components that are part of the personality traits of this person and parts of their journey, what they've been through, the quality of their social life. For example, one big component is how much those people are satisfied of their friendships and relationships in their life. The higher they will score on the satisfaction scale in their social relationship and love relationship, satisfaction, the more they're going to be motivated to heal. So how do you measure satisfaction in relationship? You need to ask questions. You need to dive into each. Hey, tell me, who are the 5 closest people to you in your life, and describe to me your relationship. How much you got disappointed or how much you felt supported. How much over 10 you feel satisfied from your relationship with Roy, how much you feel satisfied with the relationship with Jad, how much you feel satisfied, how many times they hurt you, how much you feel you can trust them and rely on them, how much you feel you are able to open up and to do self-disclosure and to be vulnerable, fully vulnerable in front of them without being afraid of being judged or criticized in a harsh way. And you go one by one, and what you will discover, and I think you already know the answer, right? It's that people who are struggling with depression means hopelessness and not any more drive to fight, to enjoy life, because they would score super low on those questions. They would feel disappointed, hurt. They don't feel they are able to be vulnerable with others. Now, one layer deeper, let's go. Most of people on that front, they are harsh with themselves and they feel disappointed from themselves. They have shame inside of them. They have guilt and shame inside of them. So they are harsh on themselves. They feel they failed on many fronts. They feel they disappointed many people in their life. And they feel maybe others are better off without them. They're not worth the struggle. They're not worth Roy going to them and visiting them and staying hours and supporting them. They feel they're not worth it. Go, you have better things to do. I'm not worthy of your time and effort. They are in this mindset of this is the psychological component. They are disappointed from themselves. They are harsh on themselves because they were trained to think this way about themselves through old childhood patterns and childhood wounds. They became heavy and they piled up, and then social disappointments, and that's it. Why you would want to live if you're not a fan of yourself, if you're not proud of yourself, and if you're not enjoying relationship and you're disappointed from relationship around you, then what the hell? Why would you want to live? Why would you want to fight? Nothing is pleasurable anymore and nothing worth the fight. You don't have big dreams, you don't have big hopes, you don't have big targets to reach. You slowly let go. And when there is a barrier, when there's a difficulty to overcome, that's it. You know, that's the the straw that would break the camel's back, but it's not a straw. It's like, a rock. But some backs are able to hold that rock due to all these components. So once you know what's underneath that, you can start, if you have the right tools, to bring this person to talk about those pains, to express them. And, and I know I don't like to dive too much into alternative medicine when it's too extreme, but on that front, I'll allow myself to do so, even though what I'm saying has no real scientific evidence, but we see it, in an anecdotic way in practitioners, we see it. But let me be clear, there's no scientific roots yet, but hopefully there will be. And you see that we call it in Chinese medicine and osteopathy, we call it emotional cyst. It's like pain and trauma and wounds and sadness and hurt that take place in your body. It creates an emotional cyst, an emotional tension with all the tissues and the fascia and the organs that get tension. And this is what the Chinese medicine described. You get stagnation of the tissues. You have tension inside the tissues, tension inside the meridians, and the flow of energy isn't there anymore. So you get stagnation and a cyst. But it's not a cyst you can touch physically yet. It starts an emotional cyst. So when you start poking it, when you start asking the person to talk about that pain, talk about their anger, talk about their pain, their wounds, and guide them that, it's not a lost cause. If those people hurt you, There are other people in life that can be there for you, but sometimes we get so blinded by pain and disappointment that we don't see the good in people, or we don't see the other people who have good in them. We're blinded, just like we say we're blinded by anger, but we're more blinded by pain, actually. And we're so much focused on pain that we lose sight of what's good in life. So we need to start allowing people to talk about the pain and releasing that pain and poking into those emotional cysts. And then let them see the other sides, the positive side, and bring hope. Teach them to be hopeless. Teach them to see themselves through a different lens, through a more optimistic, positive lens, a more pride, a more self-forgiving. Sometimes when I talk with people struggling with this situation, being stuck, when I say the word pride, what are the things you're proud of in your life? You'd have two big possibilities. Either people having delusional prides and their pride of things that they're not real. They cried this narrative to heal this deficiency in them and their disappointment in themselves. And they talk about pride that are not there 20% of the time or 10%, but 80 to 90% of the time. When you tell them pride, they don't know what you're talking about. What does it mean to be proud of yourself? So what did I do to be proud? I'm ashamed of myself. I'm a failure. I'm not worthy of. Pride is so much off topic sometimes and on a different frequency of vibration that sometimes you need to start introducing the concept of pride by teaching them to forgive themselves. Just forgive yourself and I'll be happy with that. Forget about pride for now and let's you forgive yourself. Let's you understand that this is not your fault. You didn't decide that. And listen, I'm so happy. I've never had the chance on any podcast to talk about this. And this is, and I hope this will resonate with you. And I deeply feel it will. There's a big difference between it's your responsibility to heal yourself versus you caused this to yourself. You're not responsible for causing this, but you're responsible of healing it. You're responsible of healing it because no one else can. You need to be proactive in the process. But you didn't cause those failures. You didn't cause those pain to yourself. You didn't know better. You're full of, not you, me, everyone, we're all full of childhood wounds and traumas, not because our parents didn't love us, because they didn't know better. Because at that time, and still now, we fall short on knowledge and awareness. We still do. So 30, 40, 50 years ago, they definitely, they used to smoke in hospitals. They used to smoke in front of a pregnant woman or just delivered woman with a newborn in the hospital. This is the level of ignorance that was there not 3 generations ago. It's like in this life, our parents, your parents, my parents smoked in hospital rooms. And you're asking them not to do mistakes on parenting, on the parenting level, and not to do wounds. I still wound my kids. With all the knowledge I have, unknowingly, I create wounds in them and I do my best not to, but it's impossible. So we are all full of wounds, and you want to call it transgenerational wounds, you call it. That's not right. That's not wrong at all, right? But we're all full of wounds, and it's not our fault if I failed in my financial journey or if I failed in business. I didn't cause this lack of knowledge or these blind spots that created the failures. I didn't cause them. I didn't decide to look at failure through a negative lens and think that if I fail, that means I'm a failure, and not learn and not know that if I fail, that's normal. That's part of the learning journey. That's part of the learning curve. I have to fail 100 times and repeat things 1,000 times in order to succeed. But if I didn't learn that, it's not my fault because I didn't learn it. So those people need to forgive themselves. They need to understand it's not their fault. for having those problems, but this doesn't mean it's not their responsibility. It's not your fault. Doesn't mean you're responsibility free. And here you go, say it's not my fault. It's not my fault, and allow yourself to stay in this situation, or sometimes to hurt others unknowingly, just because it's not your fault. Your parents didn't know better. Okay, it's not your fault, but it's not your fault. You need to forgive yourself because it's not your fault, and you need to take responsibility of changing this. And you'd find people falling into two extremes. Either it's not my fault, therefore I don't care, it's not my fault, I don't have any responsibilities, I can keep doing whatever I'm doing and potentially hurting myself and hurting others under the title, it's not my fault, it's my childhood trauma. Or you'd find people, it's all my fault, I caused all this to myself, I'm the only one to blame, I'm gonna let myself go and become hopeless. It's none of those narratives. It's not my fault, it's my parents' fault, they didn't know better at the same time. So it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. And this concept of differentiating because of between who caused this problem, not me, I can forgive myself, but who's responsible of healing it? Me. And I can tell you, Roy, 95% of people would have these concepts mixed together, and they will fall either here or there. And I talk too much. I want to hear what you have to say about that.
Oh, and I mean, even people beating themselves up, I see that all the time. But if we look at the forgiveness, because I kind of went through losing everything. I had a lot of businesses and I was personally liable for 5 million. And I forgave the people that caused a lot of this. And it was hard for some because it was big bucks and just, this can be applied to if you've got an alcoholic parent, a drug parent, whatever it is. What I done is I brought him back to the child. And I said, they were born pure, unconditional love. And it was external circumstances that created. But what it did is the memory of pain poisons us. It was like it freed it from me. And then I was able to move on instead of hurting from it and just having forgiveness. So forgiveness for others as well. So no matter what you're going through, because a lot of the times it's going, I am what I am because my mom's an alcoholic, or I am what I am because my mom has mental issues, or whatever it is. And you just have to go, that just forgive them, because it's like it just frees you, and then you just kind of, because you're dead right, like this, like sometimes the people are looking for the magic pill because I'm in pain or whatever, and they think something's going to change, or this is who I am. Some people, they stick to whatever they're being diagnosed with, and that's their kind of story in life.
Yeah.
So you are what you think of and what you become, because you have to, if you want a different life, you have to change it and you have to look within. And I think by being forgiving, you become a better person. And I mean, same with me, like sometimes my son, there was like at one stage, when he was younger, it was like he used to get cranky after I collect him. And I was like, he used to not, and then I was like, he's just tired. So then I sit down and I'm always looking within. Why am I acting this way? I'm not an angry person, but saying constructions, like I would take so much and then I just snap. And I was like, I didn't like that. So I started reading anger books. And like, I'm just constantly, and it's like you with all the different alternatives. And like, I think everyone, when you start being curious and just learning, whether it's listening to different types of podcasts and just learning from different people, all books and stuff like that, it's continuous learning makes you a better person, which in turn then you will understand. And so, like what you said earlier, is beautiful. And I think like people, like they're not proud of themselves. Like so many people, and I keep stopping them. Like I said, why are you beating yourself up? Like they're their worst critic. Like even say public speaking, I was like very late to the game getting, but even people are criticizing themselves 100 times more than the audience would ever do.
Exactly. Or you'd see the other side. People not able to criticize themselves in a constructive way, or not being able to receive constructive criticism. They'll take it personal, they get, very defensive and offensive. And the difficulty is to, hitting that right dose, that right balance. Yeah, gosh.
So the hypnotherapy then, you might touch on that to explain exactly what way.
Hypnotherapy, listen, I've studied hypnotherapy in the US, and it's an amazing tool. But again, hypnotherapy becomes schools of teaching their technique. And if you don't practice and use this specific technique in hypnotherapy, then you're not doing it right. And they do it for so many reasons, and I don't want to dive into that. But when you, I mean, hypnotherapy is there since hundreds of years ago. It's there. It's hypnosis state is a physiological state. I go through hypnosis. You go through hypnosis 5-6 times a day. It's a physiological state that exists. So we need to learn how to use it, and it gives us superpowers. I practice hypnoanesthesia. You know, we can create an anesthesia in 10 minutes and hypnosis, and pinch or put a fire under the fingers of a person, and they're not going to feel anything. This is how powerful is our brain. We have extraordinary powers built in us, and it's through hypnosis that I've discovered that component. And it's I cannot tell you, and I hope you've seen this, and I can share some videos with you on the side, because I don't frequently publish those, and how we can in 10 minutes create an anesthesia and pain intense tool that can create like Alice clamp. It's very painful. You can lift a hand with it and do it like that and put a fire here, and there's nothing, no feeling whatsoever. So it has this extra powerful tool to change the wiring of the brain, to create new synapses, to inhibit old synapses connections. But if you have this powerful tool with no CBT model, with no, okay, I need to target that erroneous belief, I need to target the capacity of forgiveness with hypnotherapy, I need to target the capacity to be hopeful with hypnotherapy. So this is when it starts being amazing, when you take this so powerful tool and you use CBT models with them. You use the biopsychosocial model. You see what's the problem. The person so much, submerged and blinded by pain and disappointment, how you can use hypnotherapy to make them heal that pain, to make them forgive others, forgive themselves, and see what's positive in life. But you need to have the map. The map doesn't come with the hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is like, I don't know, a short course. You cannot know it all with hypnotherapy, and it's not enough, because you need to learn the technique and the technicity and master that. You don't have enough time to dive into the CBT model of depression, for example. So you need to learn the CBT models. You need to understand the erroneous beliefs. You need to understand the cognitive distortion that comes with it, and then use this for that. Use this knowledge to apply hypnotherapy on it. But you need to combine. But hypnotherapy is an extraordinary tool. And what's even more amazing is self-hypnosis, is when you learn to do self-hypnosis. And when you start practicing on daily basis in a personalized way that would hit on your erroneous beliefs, on your personal wounds, on your personal limiting beliefs. And when we start adjusting it and adapting for just your needs, your story, your wounds, and you're practicing it on daily basis, because um, and what we say is that since we're born pure with pure love, but then external circumstances shape us, right? This is a form of hypnosis, a negative hypnosis. Caregivers unknowingly, due to their own wounds and traumas, will inject in us erroneous beliefs about ourselves, that we're not good enough, that we're not supposed to fail, that we're not supposed to do that, this is bad, this is wrong, and start building limiting beliefs inside of us. Okay, so this is hypnosis. This is at early age. These beliefs are injected in us but the brain of the child has so extreme permeability to new information that everything will be taken as the truth. This is a form of hypnosis. So sometimes, and it happens so many times, I've heard, I'm talking about, say, you stupid, you failed, you're not good enough, hundreds and hundreds of times. Sometimes we need to use this concept of repetition and hammering, because the subconscious mind, when it was really sensitive, it was hammered sometimes with toxic input. So you need to unhammer it and hammer it back with positive. So the concept of having a daily routine in the healing journey of 5, 10, 15 minutes, once, twice a day, to unhammer the negative beliefs and to hit the brain, just like a marketing campaign hitting you from all over the places, injecting in you that, consume this, it's going to make you happy. Instead of that, creating this internal marketing campaign where you sit 10, 15 minutes twice a day, hammering your subconscious mind with the right beliefs, with the healthy beliefs. So, and this, if you add on it, affirmations are amazing. But imagine combining affirmation with self-hypnosis, this amazing superpower tool we have inside our mind. It's going to take us to new dimensions, faster, more efficient. But again, when blending techniques, if you go to a hypnotherapist, he'll tell you 5 sessions, you're done. But sometimes it's much more complicated than that. Sometimes you need 20 sessions. But most of hypnotherapy schools, they learn like, yeah, we have a recipe, we have a protocol, 5 to 10 sessions, and that's it. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes you need to add tools. If your patient or client is not putting this 20, 15 minutes a day, is not going to make it, even if you're the best hypnotherapist in the world. It's not enough.
The affirmations, because you mentioned it there, and it was something I was going to ask you about anyway, because I think something I saw that some people are doing it wrong. And, I see so many people on stage and everything, and they're just trying to, how do we make affirmations work? What way should we be doing?
Gosh, that's 1 hour talk, Roy. I'm okay with it.
Actually, I know straight away anyway that I want you back, because this is a fantastic conversation, and I know we're only scratching the surface, and the information that you're sharing is very valuable, and I'm going to put it out on the awakening, the speaking, as well as the meditation. But you might just touch on it, and then we can go, if you're interested.
I'll tell you a story of a real case. Definitely pride is important. So I teach a client that, hey, I need to let's start with an affirmation. I'm proud of myself in regards to this decision, because sometimes it has to be specific to a memory that the patient would blame himself, or the client would blame himself, or the person, I'm sorry for, using different words, would blame himself. I ruminate about this. I regret and I blame myself for this decision, and I'm ashamed of it. So sometimes, in a very candid way or superficial way, you need to become proud of yourself for this decision, because this is the best thing you could do. You didn't know better. We try to build it up and say, I want you to be proud of yourself. And let's start hammering that with, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of this decision because I didn't know better. So it's very, as you see, specific to an event, to a memory, and to the person. I cannot go on stage and say, hey, I'm proud of what exactly? I'm proud of myself means nothing. It's so broad that it's meaningless and not effective. So we started with that. He couldn't spend more than 1 minute doing the exercise. So I cannot be proud of myself. And so, okay, then it's too far-fetched. It's too advanced. Be proud. Let's not hope for pride. Let's go for forgiving the self. What about forgiving? Sometimes it's good enough. So for this person, he needed to forgive himself. But that needed ingredients. Why you are eligible for forgiveness when it comes to this decision? And this is where we differentiate between, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility, right? So it was that this person would score high on the sense of responsibility. So we needed to use responsibility. I'm responsible for learning from this mistake, and I forgive myself. After long discussions, we reached this version, and it worked. And he was able to remember this moment with no more pain, no more self-blame, no more shame. If I stuck to pride, this person would say, hey, this is not working for me. That's it. I would say, you have to be proud of yourself. And I cannot be proud of yourself. So, okay, ciao. That's it. It would stop here. But to understand there's a deeper layer. This pride it's too early now. Let's go for forgiving the self and keeping the responsibility of changing and learning from that, but forgiving. I was like, if you are in front of a jury in a court, and you would be, have the sentence for that, how many years you would put yourself in prison for that? We'll say 5 years. You've been 5 years struggling. Isn't it about time now to, you've done, you've paid the tax, even if we consider it a mistake and it's your only responsibility, which is not the case. There's a shared responsibility with your childhood and education and wounds and all of that. You cannot ignore all that. You have some responsibility, but also the environment. So, but what about forgiving yourself now? Haven't you suffered enough? Yeah. But pride would be off topic. So that's an example of how personalized the affirmations. Sometimes you work 2 hours to find 2 affirmations that are tailor-made. And then you teach the client how to do that on their own, how to build their own affirmation that is tailor-made for them. And then they would use them 10 times more efficiently because it's tailor-made, it's crafted for them. And then you teach them how to craft it themselves. This is how I see affirmations. This is how I practice affirmation. This is how I teach affirmations.
Beautiful. Excellent. Listen, thoroughly enjoyed it. And I definitely want to get you back if you're up for it, because, there's so much we can discuss.
Listen, this is amazing. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. This is an amazing podcast, really. This is an amazing hour. And I felt that it's so much, we're speaking this exact same language. We see things the exact same way. And with what you went through, give you this extra edge to talk about things in a specific depth that makes the whole difference, really.
Excellent. So you might let the listeners know where they can find you.
Well, they can find me on my Instagram. It's my name, Jad Wehbe, Jad space Wehbe, and they can find me on the Bridge Institute, the bridge-institute.com on the website, and on the YouTube channel also of the Bridge Institute. We have free materials, free courses, a lot of information that can really be super, super interesting and life-changing. On the YouTube channel, also the Bridge Institute, the bridge-institute.com. That's the YouTube channel. And you see my face on the videos.
No problem. Ben, make sure I put all the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much, Chad.
Thank you, Roy. Have a nice day.
You too. So that's all for the meditation podcast, but also, as I mentioned, the speaking and the awakening, because I think this conversation was, it's basically going to touch a lot of people. So you'll find everything about me. Scan the QR code or go to roycollin.com. If you're looking for virtual assistants, go to va.world. Sure to give us a thumbs up, share with your friends, because even on WhatsApp and everything, sometimes I'm getting censored a lot. So it helps when you're sharing. Until next week, take care.